Something changed in your dog. Maybe it happened gradually, so gradually you almost didn't notice. They sleep more, they eat a little slower. They check a spot in the house repeatedly, a chair, a corner, a door, and then walk away. Maybe another pet is gone, maybe someone moved out, maybe the house just got quieter in a way your dog felt before you did. And most owners do one of two things. They tell themselves it is a phase, or they worry there is something physically wrong, take the dog to the vet, and receive a clean bill of health that somehow makes the behavior harder to explain. What they almost never consider is the accurate one. Their dog is grieving. Not in a metaphorical sense, not in the way people say it casually to describe a sad-looking animal. In a documented, neurologically measurable, behaviorally specific sense that science has now begun to map with real precision. And once you understand what is actually happening inside a grieving dog, the things you thought were strange will start to make complete sense, including one we are going to get to at number 6, that most owners not only misread, but actually respond to in a way that makes it worse. 1. Dogs experience loss. The science is no longer in question. For a long time, grief in animals was considered anthropomorphism, a projection, the comfortable human habit of reading our own emotional states into creatures who, the thinking went, were simply responding to changes in their environment without any true experience of absence or loss. That position has become increasingly difficult to defend. Research published in Scientific Reports in 2022, drawing on a survey of over 400 owners who had lost one pet while another survived, found that the surviving dogs showed significant behavioral changes consistent with what we would identify as mourning. Reduced appetite, decreased activity, increased vocalization, increased attention-seeking, and a marked increase in time spent searching familiar areas associated with the absent individual. These were not animals noticing a change in routine. These were animals responding to the loss of a specific being whose presence had shaped their daily neurological baseline. The study's lead researchers were explicit. The evidence supports the conclusion that dogs experience grief in a manner meaningfully parallel to human bereavement. Not identical, parallel, and real. 2. Your dog does not understand where they went, only that they are gone. This is the part that matters most if you want to understand what your dog is experiencing. Humans know what death means. We have language for it, ritual around it, the cognitive architecture to process permanence. Your dog has none of that. What they have is an absence where a presence used to be. The scent is fading. The sounds are gone. The familiar weight in the corner of the sofa is no longer there. And every time your dog checks that spot, noses the blanket, stands in the doorway and waits, they are running a biological search that has no resolution available to it. They are not being dramatic. They are doing exactly what their nervous system is designed to do when a bonded presence disappears. They are looking. Dr. Marc Bekoff, a behavioral ecologist who has studied animal grief extensively, describes this searching behavior as one of the most consistent and cross-species markers of bereavement in mammals. It is not confusion. It is the biological expression of a bond that has not yet found a way to close. Your dog is not lost. They know precisely what they are looking for. They simply cannot find it. 3. The appetite change is not a stomach problem. One of the first signs owners notice, and one of the first they misattribute, is a change in how their dog eats. Slower, less enthusiastic, sometimes completely indifferent to a meal that would normally have produced undisguised excitement. The connection between emotional state and appetite in dogs is neurological, not incidental. The same dopamine and serotonin pathways that regulate mood are directly involved in hunger signaling and reward anticipation. When a dog's emotional baseline drops, so does the motivational charge that makes food feel rewarding. The food is the same. Their capacity to feel rewarded by it has temporarily changed. What this means practically is important. A dog eating less after a loss is not sick in the way a vet visit is testing for. Their nervous system is in a period of recalibration. Forcing the issue, adding pressure around mealtimes, switching foods repeatedly in search of something that will work, can add anxiety on top of grief. The appetite usually returns on its own timeline, and that timeline is the dog's, not ours. 4. The clinginess is protective, not manipulative. Some grieving dogs go the opposite direction from withdrawal. They become shadows. They follow you from room to room. They press against you. They become anxious when you leave in a way they were not before. And some owners, exhausted by the change, frustrated by the suddenly dependent dog who used to be so independent, interpret this as a new bad habit, something to be corrected before it becomes permanent. But what is happening is this. Your dog just experienced the disappearance of a bonded presence. One day it was there, then it was not. And their nervous system, which now has direct evidence that presences can simply vanish, is responding by monitoring you more closely than it ever needed to before. The clinginess is not manipulation. It is data-driven threat assessment. The data says that individuals your dog is bonded to can disappear without warning. The logical response, in your dog's biology, is to keep the remaining ones in sight. The attachment behavior escalated because the cost of losing contact now feels measurably higher than it did before. If you subscribe here, you already know we do not do comfortable assumptions. We find the real mechanism. And the real mechanism here is a grieving dog doing the most rational thing their nervous system knows how to do. 5. The duration is longer than most owners expect. The 2022 study found that the majority of dogs showing grief behaviors were still exhibiting them at the 2 to 6 month mark, some beyond that. This catches owners off guard. The assumption tends to be that an animal moves on quickly, that they live in the present in a way that insulates them from prolonged loss. What researchers actually found is that the dogs with the closest bonds to the lost individual showed grief behaviors for the longest periods. Not because they were less resilient, but because the bond was deeper. The more integrated the absent presence had been in the dog's daily neurological life, the longer the recalibration takes. This matters because owners who expect a 2-week adjustment and are still watching their dog check the empty bed at month 3 sometimes begin to panic or to seek solutions when what is actually happening is normal. Painful, but normal. The length of the grief is a measure of the depth of what was lost. And that is not a problem to be fixed. It is something to be understood and moved through together. 6. The one response that makes it worse. This is the behavior pattern we saved, because it is the one that comes entirely from love and still causes real harm. Your dog is clearly sad. They are lying in the low-light corner, disengaged from everything, the way you only see when something is genuinely wrong. And you do what any loving person does. You go to them. You sit with them. You use the soft voice. You offer them extra treats, extra cuddles, extra closeness. You match their sadness with your own visible emotional response because you want them to know that you see it. What your dog is reading in that response is not comfort. It is confirmation. Dogs use their owner's emotional state as a primary reference for how to interpret the world. When your face carries worry, when your voice carries sadness, when your energy dips to meet theirs, their nervous system registers one thing. The trusted individual is also signaling that something is wrong. And that signal reinforces the state they are already in rather than offering them a way out of it. The research on this is consistent across multiple studies on canine emotional referencing. A calm, stable owner does not ignore a grieving dog. They provide something more valuable than shared sadness. They provide evidence, delivered through posture, tone, and steady energy, that the world is still navigable, that safety still exists, that the pack is still intact. You can love your dog through their grief and still be their anchor. Those two things are not in conflict. But the anchor only works if it holds. 7. What helps is simpler than you think. The factors most consistently associated with faster recovery in grieving dogs were not pharmaceutical, not behavioral training, not distraction tactics. They were routine, physical contact on the dog's terms, and owner emotional stability. 3 things any owner can provide starting today. Routine matters because a grieving dog's nervous system is searching for reliable patterns in a world that just proved it could change without warning. Every walk at the same time, every meal at the same hour, every familiar sequence of the day is data that says, the structure still holds. You are still safe. Physical contact on the dog's terms means not pushing comfort onto them when they withdraw, and being available without pressure when they seek closeness. Following their lead on proximity rather than your own need to console.
And owner stability means understanding that your dog is watching you for information about whether this loss is survivable. Your calm is not indifference. It is the most useful thing you have to offer. Grief in a dog is not a behavior problem. It is not separation anxiety in the standard sense. It is not something to train away or medicate away at first response. It is a bond, expressing itself in the only language available to it after the other half of the conversation goes silent. Your dog is not broken. They are missing someone, and the most important thing you can do is make sure that in the missing, they never lose the sense that you are still here. Your dog cannot tell you they are missing someone. They cannot explain the empty spot they keep checking or why the world feels different now. But they are feeling it, and now you know what to look for. If this gave you something, subscribe, drop a comment, and tell us whether your dog has ever shown you these signs.